Is Iran's closest great power ally now warning Donald Trump, just as a mega military buildup transforms the Middle East into a potential war zone? Is Donald Trump dangerously playing with fire as he doubles down on threats, while Iran's ally openly warns of a huge regional fallout? When a top aide of Vladimir Putin talks of severe consequences, is this a brutal warning to Trump that the entire region could pay the price? Are we watching a slide from Geneva talks to full-blown war, as Ayatollah Khamenei's closest allies publicly urge diplomacy over airstrikes? As Moscow and Tehran flex their own military might at sea, are we heading toward deterrence or a direct clash no one can control? Iran's close ally Russia has now sent a strong and unmistakable warning to Donald Trump, just as the US steps up a massive military deployment across the Middle East. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov has warned there will be severe consequences for the entire region if Iran is attacked by US forces or their allies. The Russian foreign minister made these explosive remarks during an interview with Saudi network Al Arabiya, which was aired on February 18 and quickly picked up worldwide. Lavrov bluntly said that the consequences of a fresh US strike on Iran would not be good, hinting at the real risk of escalation and instability, according to Reuters. He further alleged that US-Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear sites in June 2025 could have triggered a huge nuclear mishap, raising the specter of catastrophe few want to imagine. Furthermore, Sergey Lavrov claimed that the United States and its key Middle East ally Israel are playing with fire by repeatedly targeting Iran's sensitive nuclear infrastructure. Lavrov also urged America to show restraint and instead pursue a diplomatic solution with Iran, warning that military adventurism would only deepen the crisis. Russia's top diplomat reportedly said that any new US strike on Iran would damage Washington's diplomatic ties across the Middle East, including with Arab and Gulf partners. The Russian foreign minister said, and I quote, "The consequences are not good. There have already been strikes on Iran on nuclear sites under the control of the International Atomic Energy Agency, and from what we can judge, there were real risks of a nuclear incident. I am carefully watching reactions in the region, from Arab countries and Gulf monarchies, and no one wants an increase in tension. Everyone understands that this is playing with fire." End quote. Putin's top diplomat has also accused the UN's nuclear watchdog of turning a blind eye to attacks on Iranian facilities, effectively normalizing strikes on monitored sites. Lavrov went further, accusing IAEA chief Rafael Grossi of politicizing the agency's nuclear oversight and undermining its own principles in the process. Russia's foreign minister reiterated that Iran intends to continue nuclear enrichment under the watch of the nuclear watchdog, insisting it remains within treaty obligations. Sergey Lavrov also stated that it was the US strikes on Iran's nuclear sites in June 2025 that truly turned the tide and ignited today's dangerous standoff.
The strikes on nuclear facilities forced the Iranians to think about the physical protection of nuclear materials, which, I repeat, are under the IAEA's control and cannot be touched. Regrettably, Israel and the United States still went ahead with the strikes, creating physical risks and undermining the authority of the IAEA and the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, which, as Iran has noted repeatedly, is mandatory for Iran. The IAEA has exerted unprecedented control, especially in the past years, after the signing of the JCPOA. Iran was never found violating the Non-Proliferation Treaty or its agreement on guarantees with the IAEA. All risks and political tensions emerged after the United States withdrew from the JCPOA in 2018, 3 years into its term. Iran is ready to guarantee a return to purely fuel and energy needs under IAEA oversight. The agency must demonstrate its commitment to the principles by which its secretariat operates. However, following the strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities during the 12-day war in June 2025, the agency has not stated its position, despite the fact that these facilities were under its safeguards. This does nothing to enhance the agency's credibility, which is regrettable. We place great value on the work of the Secretariat, and we would not want to see the agency, at this critical juncture, deviate from its principles or attempt to politicize its activities in any way.
Lavrov's sharp remarks came just as Iran and Russia staged a major show of military muscle at sea on February 19, sending a message of joint resolve. Tehran and Moscow conducted naval exercises in the Gulf of Oman and the northern Indian Ocean, signaling growing security coordination between the two sanctioned states. These Iran-Russia drills unfolded at the very moment the United States was deploying even more firepower into the wider Middle East theater. Reports claim the Tehran-Moscow exercises in the Sea of Oman were held close to the U.S. aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln, a pointed reminder of contested waters. Meanwhile, Iran insisted that its joint drills with Russia were part of defense diplomacy, framing the exercises as a message of deterrence rather than outright provocation. U.S. officials told Reuters that by mid-March, most of the American forces being surged toward Iran's periphery will be in place, ready for any decision from Washington. In his latest remarks, U.S. President Donald Trump has effectively given Iran a 10-day deadline to reach a nuclear deal, warning that time is rapidly running out. Trump has again reiterated that bad things will happen to Iran if the current nuclear talks collapse, keeping the threat of military action squarely on the table.
And Israel, as you know, you could say Israel and numerous countries if you want to really know the truth, but Israel and Iran, and we'll see where that goes. But when you think of Israel, we've done the biggest thing of all. We have peace in the Middle East right now. That's bigger than people said it couldn't be done. For 3,000 years, they've been talking about Middle East. They said it couldn't be done. And you look at what's happened in Gaza. And one of the keys to it was when we took those beautiful, magnificent, we just ordered 22 more of them, updated model. The B-2 bombers are incredible. I never understood the B-2 bomber. I'd watch, it's a wing. And I've never quite understood that, Johnny. I'd look at it, I'd say it was beautiful, but what does it do? It carries very big bombs. And it went into Iran, and it totally decimated the nuclear potential. And when it decimated that, all of a sudden we had peace in the Middle East because there was a black cloud hanging over the Middle East, and if that wasn't done, that cloud would have been there. And countries like Saudi Arabia, countries like Qatar, countries like, nobody could have signed. You would have had that threat. You couldn't have had peace in the Middle East. So now we may have to take it a step further, or we may not. Maybe we're going to make a deal. You're going to be finding out over the next probably 10 days.
At the same time, reports say Iran is preparing to submit a written proposal to the United States to try to resolve the standoff and avert open conflict. This diplomatic move comes after 2 rounds of indirect talks between Iran and the U.S. in Oman and Geneva, which have so far failed to bridge core differences. However, Iran has repeatedly refused to completely dismantle its nuclear program as demanded by Washington, setting up a showdown between pressure and resistance.